Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for another REOX Housing Exchange webinar series. We are excited to have you with us for today's session, which is Asset Management Insights, perspectives from Tricon Homes, AREMCO, and VRM Mortgage Services. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. Throughout today's webinar, we encourage you to submit your questions using the Q&A and questions box. As questions come in, we'll collect them and we'll save them for after the presentation. With that, I would like to introduce today's moderator, Rita Sharav, who is the Chief Default Officer at ResNet. So Rita Sharav serves as the Chief Default Officer at ResNet, where he works closely with mortgage servicers, investors, asset managers, and industry partners to help drive innovation and operation excellence throughout the default servicing process. He has extensive experience in default servicing, asset management, and industry collaboration, and Rita brings unique perspectives in today's discussion. His deep knowledge of REO and the REO landscape and commitment to fostering meaningful conversations makes him the perfect moderator for today's panel. Please join me in welcoming Rita Sharav, who will introduce the panelists and kick off today's conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Annie, and great thanks to you. Without Annie, we couldn't have done this, so really appreciate the efforts and REO Housing's Exchange support and commitment to educating brokers. It's very obvious what the mission is, so I'm really happy to be a part of this, and I'm very humbled to be with the triple J's today, as I like to call them, the triple J's of REO and asset management. But we've collected some unbelievable perspectives for you guys today. And thank all of you guys for coming in today. And if you could see me on the little monitor, on a little pop-up here at the bottom. I've been looking forward to this session for quite a while because I think one of the things that this is going to be different than a lot of other webinars you're going to see is the different perspectives that we're bringing for you. Rather than focusing on headlines and things that are going on, which we'll touch on later on in the discussion, I really wanted to talk about the specifics of how brokers engage, what asset managers are specifically looking for. And we're bringing to you really great participants today. With us, we have from Tricon Homes, Jeff O'Pry. Jeff brings incredible institutional owner operator of single family rental and single family homes. His experience is very impressive across property operations, maintenance, rehabilitation, asset management. I think I'm really excited to hear what Jeff has to say through his specific lens of portfolio optimization, operational efficiency, and then working with investors. So thank you, Jeff, for being with us today. Also, we have Jeff Mueller. I've had the pleasure of working with Jeff for many years. He's probably one of the most experienced asset managers in the country. I'm pretty sure he's managed thousands and thousands of assets, both commercial and residential. And he brings a deep broker understanding because he is one and has been for a long time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing and hearing what Jeff has to say for the boots on the ground type perspective. Also with us is Justin Askew, Chief Operating Officer from AREMCO. Justin, I don't really think I need to even introduce him. He's really known as a industry expert and voice in our business. His experience is comparatively impressive, from operations to financial services to construction, real estate, asset management. I mean, he's going to bring to us a perspective on overall workflows and systems to put in place. So with that, really appreciate all three of the J's here with us. I'm really looking forward to this discussion. So with that, let's just kind of dive in, all right? And we'll start getting everybody's perspective on the same kind of topic. And a good one that I thought to start with was what's changed? What's changed in the market? Um, and what are the trends that are coming up? I know AI everything, I understand, but until we really get there, we need to talk about what's actually going on. From there, we'll go to top performing brokers and how you separate yourself. We'll talk about challenges that asset managers have, technology, and we'll get there to AI. I know everybody's excited about that. And then future opportunities. So with that said, let's start with you, Jeff O'Pry. And what do you think has changed over the last few years? And like, if I could ask you a very specific question, if we were having this conversation 18 months ago and you had all the knowledge that you have today, what would be your advice or what your perspective on what's going on, where things are going, how things are different?
I feel like the thing that's changed the most for us since we took on the portfolio from HBA, oh gosh, 14 or 15 months ago, is buyer expectations on properties, right? And the the higher interest rates almost force them to look for almost the perfect home, so they have less out-of-pocket expenses post-closing. Um, it's one of those things to where we found that HPA was doing a lot of lender required or 4-point inspection repairs after going under contract, and we've pivoted to try to do those more upfront in the pre-marketing process. For example, Rita, we're doing about 42% of a repaired strategy on the front end, as opposed to more of a traditional, I don't want to say REO in general, but when I was at VRM, we repaired almost nothing unless it was a health or safety issue, right? For the account that I was on, right? Jeff could be different, with the ones that he worked.
Yeah.
So that was a big one, I think, for me to get used to, was to be open to doing that. And the good thing with Tricon is we have internal boots on the ground or maintenance and construction teams in almost every one of our core markets, which partner with us and the listing agents. And I say that very seriously. We severely rely on the listing agents to tell us what the market is demanding at that any given point in time when it comes to repairs needed, types of finishes, et cetera. And we're really excited to continue that collaboration both throughout the rest of this year and next year.
That's very interesting. So let me ask you a quick follow-up question. So when you're rehabbing, repairing these properties, is the aim insurable title? Is it marketable title? Where is the goal?
Well, all of our titles clear, to be honest with you, because it's purchase and through securitizations and whatnot, and it's more of looking at a 4-point inspection requirements and or what a government finance product would require. That's our primary focus from a training perspective with our superintendents that scope the homes the day after the move out with the listing agents, and then getting again the additional feedback from the agents on what's needed beyond that to get a fast, quick sale at optimizing ROI for the client.
I want to come back to this concept of the partnership out in the field, but Justin, let me hear your kind of perspective on that topic.
Sure. And what Jeff referenced as far as the change we believe, that we're experiencing too, your traditional REO, as you stated, Jeff, is, as is health and safety, move the asset, liquidate it. But the trend has shifted. And depending on the client and what they want to do, that repair strategy is first and foremost. So that data collection, we need the brokers, we need the agents, the boots on the ground to help drive that according to what that market trend is, right? So those in-depth market analysis are key for us to get, the right boots on the ground, the right contractors, as Jeff referenced, superintendents, to look at these on a micro level to try to turn these, whether it's insurable condition, possibly rental portfolio, it could be a multitude of things. But aggregating that data to put forth the best plan is key, as Jeff referenced. So there are a lot of, and I know we're going to get into technology, but what we're trying to do is drive our agents to be forward thinking on this, depending on what kind of asset it is. So we'll direct that. but we want this strategy all in all, even if it is a traditional, right?
Right.
Ultimately, they will get the listing, and that is good data to have for that listing as is too. So that they can share that with that buyer pool, where their buyer pool, I believe, and we're seeing those turn rates quicker on decision making for those investors, whether it's
Now,
individual or institutional.
I have a question on that, and I
Sure.
think I know the answer already, but are you looking for agents to give as much information as possible beyond just what, let's talk about the tactical tasking that's going on where it's just a task, in a system that says, hey, write this down. If I'm an agent and I don't feel like I'm conveying the whole story, you're expecting me to go beyond what's going on, systematically, right?
We are, look, it's defined by the asset, right, and what the client wants. But we're encouraging our agents to forward think on this, to bring this in for the backside. And what I mean by the backside is if you have that data set, right, if you have that information on that ARV value, right, whether that client or whether we direct you, and we do that type of work, at least you have it for forecasting for your buyer pool, right? So that buyer that comes in can say, look, this is a little overwhelming. What does it take to get this in fixed up to where my family or anyone, would want to move in? You've got those data sets. And look, the technology is there today to do this in pretty quick time versus years ago, where it
Yeah.
would take, a general contractor to come in, a handyman to come in, to aggregate all that data, which is a long-term time, as everyone on this panel knows. And then you'll get apples to oranges with that. So the data sets are pretty easy now, with some of the robust applications out there that these agents can use.
Mr. Mueller, let's get your perspective on this. And I want to specifically hear about the partnership aspect of the boots on the ground. Are you guys doing that format? Are you having brokers do some of the work? Is it all property preservation companies? What does that look like for VRM?
We have both with respect to the property preservation companies, we have a national vendor that we work with and also utilize the broker network to handle that, whatever becomes more efficient
Okay. All
for the
right.
client.
And so
As
what are you looking for? I mean, when you're sending out a contractor that's not the listing agent, right? What are you looking for in terms of that communication and that workability with that listing agent? I mean, I definitely it's nice to have a big brother on the property looking over what's going on and telling you. But I mean, what from the perspective of, optimal execution are you going to look for from an agent's perspective to say, hey, this contractor's here, what am I going to do?
really coordinating and working directly with the brokers, the locally assigned brokers, is just critical. We often find that the contractors don't want to work directly with the brokers. They would prefer to work directly with us. And
Right.
that can sometimes create challenges, delays, and just overall not good for anyone in the process.
Right. Right. Okay. With that being said, um, you know, as we're looking to move wherever this business is going and however our industry is moving forward, um, what do you think about like performance? What are the main and this is for you, Jeff, Mr. Mueller. What are the main KPIs you look for in an agent? Let's say four KPIs that are specific that you want consistently from a broker.
Well, I'd say number one, two, three, and four would be number one, and that would be getting to the right value. Um, and I say that kind of jokingly, but serious at the same time. There are other KPIs that we want to get to, but one of the challenges that brokers have with getting to the right value is not making adjustments like a buyer would and not doing the due diligence on the property like a buyer will. And from that, we often find out, we get under contract, for instance, only to find out that our permitted use is a 2-unit and not a 3-unit,
Oh,
even though the borrower converted it to a 3-unit and there are 3 people in there renting the property out. And
mhm.
then we have conforming use issues, and those
Right.
impact value. If we comped it as a 3-unit and got it under contract as a 3-unit, only to find out it's a 2-unit, that has unwound many sales. And actually, there was one not too long ago that affected the value by over $200,000 that we thought was a 4-unit, and it was never permitted to be used as a 4-unit. It was a 2-unit.
So let's use this as an example. So what should the agent have done in that situation? I mean, it was just too light of research, didn't
Yeah,
understand the
just
property.
research that up front with the county. And it's great to create a local contact list for each of the brokers, so that they know who to contact and get as much data as they can on the property.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, that's an interesting point. You're using brokers, I think we all are, right? In a investigator capacity, right? I want you to go and investigate this property, and that's really what you're asking for initially. Justin, coming from that data background, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here at AREMCO, to what Jeff Mueller was just talking about on that particular scenario on that asset, the right hand talks to the left hand. We have a national prop res division, and that team works on some of these assets as a QC, right? So when we get values back, we're looking at those values, but as Jeff referenced, if the property is not conforming, and we can tell right through that there was an addition put on, that it's not conforming in use, or things at different scenarios, that other team is looking at that and QCing that with the county or the municipality, making sure that the permits were pulled, they were closed, so on and so forth. So that checklist is very, very detailed prior to us putting over that asset management plan to our clients, for sure. So we have an internal process to check that. And we do, kick back to some agents and say, look, you didn't think of this, and we don't expect all agents to check it. Look, it can be taxing. I think both Jeffs know that. It's just one more thing to ask, but look, a good broker, a good agent should be doing that because they're putting the paper forward, but
It saves them so much time to do it
it
on the
does.
phone,
It
though.
does. You're right.
I mean, to me, I experienced the same scenarios as both of these guys. We had unpermitted rooms, additions, basements, roofs that were never permitted 3 or 4 years ago, and we were addressing them at the back end under closing and irritating investors, right? Like
Right.
doing the front, that's the first thing that we task the agents to do once they establish occupancy, is go check for HOA code and open permit issues, right? Like, let's tackle them even before the market strategy set, right? Like, I don't want to do 20, 30K in repairs if I've got a permitting issue too on top of that, right? Like, let's look at the whole piece, if you will, before we establish that market plan. 100% agree with these guys.
And
So,
one thing I will add to that is, look, it is a tough process depending on the municipality, the county, to work through. And look, it's personality related. And I'm sure the agents and the brokers on here in the background are saying, shaking their head, yes. Our team works diligently, tries to build those relationships and solve those problems from afar, right? And the agent gets involved where needed, but we take that responsibility close to vest. And so we work through that to remedy, and we primarily do not put that off on the agent. They can be a conduit of some sort to help, because a lot of them live in that locality. They might know the person or persons involved in making those decisions. But again, our team works through that steadfast, very fast.
So clearly, a prominent KPI is going to be recommended list price to fair market value, right? Whatever determined is. That's definitely something that every asset manager that I've ever talked to looked at, right? Is hey, how close is your recommendation? Now, staying with this topic, what other insights could you give brokers and you wish you knew to tell brokers, or you wish like brokers would understand when they're taking on these responsibilities and tasks and assignments and all that stuff? Let's start with you, Justin. What something that like happens all the time that you're like, I wish you understood what I was looking at.
Well, we know the challenges. And look, remote properties, I hate to throw that 100-pound gorilla in here, but remote properties for everyone is a challenge. So those agents, those brokers that, help us, inspect those properties, even though Pres Division's going there, but those brokers have to do their job too, right? And go inspect. So, the transparency, the communication, for us, the remote properties, I would say is the number one challenge. We overcome it every day, but we make sure the agents, we know that, hey, look, this is a challenge. We're on your side with it, but we still have a deliverable, right? There's still things that you have to do on this asset.
Yeah.
Look, the list is getting longer and longer. All of us on this call are relying more and more, I believe, in today's environment on the agents and the brokers on the ground, more so than ever. And the pool is smaller, right? Some have left the REO world, some are coming back just due to market trends. But we pride ourselves on the relationships that we've built and continue to build. But in truth, we are all asking more of these agents and these brokers. And that's just a fact.
Yeah, it's different than 2008, even
Yes, it is.
2020,
Yes,
right?
it is.
Like you can't sit back, give out instructions to buyers agents or your vendors and expect to collect a check. We demand more because our clients expect more,
Yes.
right? And it's no disrespect to the agents, because to Justin's point, we severely value the partnerships. You're experts in your fields, right? So that's the thing, is like I try to express what my internal team's goals are, both with my asset managers as well as what, for my instance, Blackstone has set upon me. So we can align, and they understand the why of my tight timelines, right?
Right.
And
Right.
I
So
try to collaborate with my agents more now than I ever have because of that, right? Like the changes in the markets, the housing laws that are now coming into effect. Like, how do we pivot and maneuver around that? New construction's not here yet, but it will. And planning for that. I've never been a complacent person. It's like that's where you fail, right? It's how do we constantly look to evolve and change for the better on all sides, right?
Yeah, I mean, you already answered the question I had, is that how do you communicate that to brokers, right? And then, I think from my specific seat and experience, it's how do you emphasize how important it is to brokers? Because they're going to get instructions. I mean, we send emails and tasks, and there's all kinds of things, but there's immense value in every little data point because of what you said, right? You're working towards a goal. And so that alignment with a broker really does have a good impact. Mr. Mueller, what do you want brokers to stop doing?
That's a good
That's a tough
question. To stop doing.
I save the hard ones for you.
That's a tough one.
Well, it would be it'd be better to switch that around and say start doing, but yeah, the stop doing, I really don't have anything that I can think of off the top of my head that would stand out that brokers do that are counteractive to our goals and our needs. It
Awesome.
really is more what they don't do.
Right.
They try to some of them. We have a number of great brokers that do understand REO and the impact to the investors.
Hmm.
And with that said, the great brokers do their due diligence when setting the values and
Yeah.
understand the impact of getting to the right value to sell the property will net the investor more
Yeah.
than if they, overprice the property and we're on the market for a year of holding
Right.
costs. And that's especially um, a heavy impact in the commercial world because the commercial, you have a smaller buyer pool for the most
Hmm.
part
Yeah.
and a number of other hurdles to overcome.
I got a couple, if you don't mind me chiming
Yeah.
in. So I had some agents in my office yesterday with my asset managers talking through these very things. And to me, it's the asset managers are looking for the agents to be the lead investigator in the field. And what does that mean? Don't just send us an email at any level and say, please review the below and advise, right? Explain to me what your issue is, but more importantly, present options or decisions that you think we should go, right? um, that saves us operational efficiency so much, like the downtime of reading through everything, formulating our own plan, right? Like tell me
Yeah.
what the problem is and present a solution, right? And it doesn't have to be accurate 100% of the time, but at least let's start the initial legwork in the field, right? The second one would be offer renegotiations, right? Like same thing. Please review the below and advise to a amendment that was submitted. Well,
Mhm.
even if you don't have DOA of to approve things, try to soft negotiate things on the front end. Say pending seller approval, after every statement, right? Like if you know your seller is not going to agree to do X service or repair 99.9% of the time, swap that away, right? Obviously, throw in like I said, pending seller approval, but also don't let deals just walk away either, right? Like fight to keep that deal in play if people are walking, you know, if they are walking, find out why, right? Like all of us have been there where it's like had a perfect property, perfect offer, went under contract quick, but they walk and there's no explanation why. Well, did they find something? Was there something discovered that none of us were aware of? Or was it just, hey, I found another house, right? But again, the more knowledge we have, uh, I call them list price reduction reviews, like every, 2 weeks or so, we evaluate it. We don't always take them, but we look at it, right? And it's
Sure.
the direct feedback from the agents on what they're seeing, not only from the offers, but the showing activity, right? Like, what's the feedback from the buyers and their agents, right? Um, I don't know. I'm kind of on a high horse today after that meeting with the agents, but I get spurred up about it because it's things that would make us so much more efficient, overall.
It's true. No, it's true. Any thoughts there, Justin?
I'm going to keep piggybacking on Jeff. Both Jeffs are doing a great job. It's like he said, it's solution. You've got to get your mind around the solution, right?
Yeah.
Knowledge is power, as Jeff said.
Yeah.
The more things that we have, the better decisions we can make, whether it's price reduction, so on. Where we see a lot of gap, and we all do, is what did the buyer's agent say? Where is that?
Mhm.
What happened? Where's the feedback? Why is that not on my asset manager's desk? We would like to know more of the details, why they're walking.
Yeah.
Is there any lift that we can do that we can put forward to the client to get this deal done? Look, it goes back. It's a deal. There's art to getting a deal done. There's solutions that can be brought to the table. And so that gap, I think, is just a communication gap. I don't think, necessarily that the brokers are just saying, "Hey, look, we're just trying to push paper here." They said no. it's gone, guys. No, we just need more information, so that we can help guide and do our job, right? Present things to the client, present options. So, I'm just going to piggyback on that. I think that's the biggest pain point that I would see.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you guys all hit on something that's very important. And there is quite literally a fiduciary duty there. And,
It is.
you're watching out for your client. That's what that means, right? And
Yes.
in those dual agency cases, which my attorney friends just roll their eyes at, it's the same. You have a fiduciary duty. That means that you need to understand what your client is trying to achieve and work towards that. That proactivity, in my mind, and I guess the consistent proactivity is how I personally gain trust, right? I wanted to pose that quick question to all three of you is, what do you think is the biggest way to gain trust, from a broker's perspective with you? How are you going, what can they do to earn that trust, right? And I know that a big magic potion in that equation is time. But I'll let you guys kind of opine on that. What do you think?
Don't sugarcoat it. Shoot me straight, right? Like the agents that, and all of my agents are this way, that they shoot me straight. Like I've taken a lot of time, cycled through a bunch of agents to say, okay, who's just telling me what I want to hear, especially on like monthly status reports. That's a big one, right? Where their value goes down, say 5,000 or 5% every 30 days. But no, it's not what the markets are showing us in a lot of areas right now. There's more dramatic drops, 60, 90, 120 days after listing, right? And telling me that, like, I don't know, I value that constructive feedback. Again, partnering with them, right? Like, my team's not going to get it right 100% of the time. I fully acknowledge that, right? But it's where's the misses, right? And in that vein, it's like, okay, like this person's got my back, and truly in alignment with the goals that I have for myself, my team, my agents, right?
Yep. Mr. Muller?
I would say basically taking the initiative. When the best brokers that I have, that I trust the most, I never have to follow up with them to get anything done. They already know up front everything that they need to do, and more. And back, kind of touching on checking for permit issues, or just basically doing the full due diligence on the property, knowing their product basically, before we put it on the market. They know the product, they know the values, they complete all of their tasks on time without me having to follow up to get those. It's always, I know that I can go to them at any given time if I need to know something about the property, and they'll get right back to me immediately. And to Jeff O'Pride's point, shooting me straight, they just take a few characters to let me know. They don't give me the long paragraphs or or
Yeah.
books to explain everything, just the high level detail. And
Yeah, I love the moniker of, I mean, and the observation of investigators in the field, right? An investigator is going to come back and tell you the good, the bad, the ugly, everything, right? They're not there to make you feel good. They're telling you the facts that are out there.
Yeah.
Justin, I have a
agreed.
question for you.
Sure.
What do you think is more valuable today? Local expertise or tech savvy for brokers?
Oh, local expertise, 100%. Real estate still goes back to location. Um, I don't see all the tech in the world is not going to change that. It's all relationships. Walk in the life of a good broker. Prior to just getting the referral, that broker should know, here's my buyer pool for that. whether it's as is, whether that house needs to be demoed to the ground for a new infill build, I'm sorry, that broker should know where are my investors for as is properties. They have their pulse on that local market, and we depend on that 110%. So, in my opinion, the technology, we'll get into that, has made strides and advances for all of us here on this panel, for everyone listening on the broker side. But that does not take away from local knowledge and what they do day in and day out, and their expertise and their buyer pool. So that's, you
So
know,
glad, so glad that you said that, because I
yeah,
feel
there's no, I mean, that handshake, those relationships that they build in that community are key to their success.
To
okay.
me, AI can only take you so far in this moment,
That's
right?
right.
It's
That's right.
it's too early to say that overpowers
Yeah.
the actual agent.
That
Okay.
iBuyer in its, self, and it's been around a while. That has taken, a life of its own. We all know, right? And it's made some inroads, and where that data is, I don't think anyone on this panel knows, but it has certainly not taken away, that broker on the ground. Not even close. And
Yeah.
I don't foresee it in the near future. So everyone on here, your job is safe that's listening, in my opinion. So
All right. So let me add something onto that. So do
okay,
you feel like, and I 1,000% agree, I think soft skills, your network, your sphere of influence is going to be more important than ever. Um, However, from your guys' perspective, are you seeing brokers use technology slash AI effectively, or are you seeing a little bit of abuse, let's call it? Or is it just right? What are you guys seeing from your side?
I
um,
am. Yeah.
yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Go
I'm just
ahead.
gonna say it's across the board right now.
Okay.
We're seeing, yeah, we're seeing a lot of everything, and we're getting our hand as an enterprise here. We've got our own, you know, AI compliance things that we're working on, and we've put in place, and that's a ever evolving thing that we're doing. But look, we're seeing everything thrown at the wall right now, and I'm not out here pointing fingers at agents, but
Sure.
yes, certainly they're using good, bad, and indifferent in AI right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Vibe
I think
coding.
we all are. So, in full transparency,
Oh, yeah.
we all are in whatever role you have in your own daily life, right?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen some email threads that I'm pretty sure were just AI talking back and forth to
Oh,
each other,
yes,
sent
100%.
by human beings. So yeah, that happens all the time. What about you, Mr. Mueller?
I don't see it as much, I think, from the brokers as I do maybe my clients, or the investors.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that drives even more so the importance of the brokers to do their due diligence. And we've been able to, with the brokers being so good and boots on the ground, we've been able to explain away
Yeah.
the issues that have been found by investors and so forth.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely clients, agents, my mom, everybody's using AI these days. So it's all over the place. All right. So we've got a few minutes before we get into the Q&A. I wanted to take a moment for each of you to kind of give just a short, little brief perspective on what you see as far as opportunities in the next 12 months for the broker community. How things are changing, things to watch out for. You can be mysterious too. If you can't say, that's fine. Give them a little carrot to chase. But yeah, I want to see, sitting from your seats, what do you see coming down the pipe? Mr. Mueller, let's start with you.
Our inventory is certainly on the VA side, and I'm not on that account. That's increasing considerably. I think across the nation, the REO inventories are increasing. I do believe that I remember back in 2008 and 9, I was having the biggest challenge with, for one, all of the new brokers flooding in and us trying to train them when we didn't have time. Um, I see that happening again, and with that, there are going to be a flood of listings, and again, just getting to the right value and adjusting in a declining market is the hardest thing for the brokers to learn. That's just so tough for them to learn, and the real estate market is lagging. But I do see us going back to high levels of foreclosed properties on the market, declining markets, and being prepared and understand how to adjust for that as being the main issue.
Mr. O'Pry, what are you seeing from your side?
Our inventory will continue to be consistent as it was the past couple of years. There's no major changes there. It's more of removing the properties that are no longer financially viable for us to keep, or just severely distressed assets is another way you could put it, right? But we model our homes exactly like an REO portfolio. It's when we came on, it's why fix something that's already working, right? So I see, and that's kind of not a lot of agents know about SFR, especially when I go to conferences, right? They've heard of us, but they don't know how it works. And I say this to agents, it's like there will be SFR players come to the table for dispositions more based off legislation, however you want to phrase it, right? And again, I'm not concerned about that. There's always exceptions. We have built for rent portfolios and things like that. So the investor portfolio will still be needed, but it's going to be different to see how institutional owners of REITs especially operate in the coming couple of years or so. I've also heard grumblings on financial papers about how the propositions on how we should treat capital gains on sales of real estate in the future, right? And that's been a hindrance, right? If you've owned a home for 30, 40 years, right, and just need to downsize. That coupled with lower rates potentially could spur an onslaught of homes going on the market, like Jeff said. So yeah. It's all speculation, of course, right? I'm fascinated by that, though, right? Like it's something that could happen. New construction coming into play. Jeff's point on foreclosures. I've heard a lot of grumblings about the short sale volume, slowly building, and that's the new bubble, right? Not necessarily REO, but again, a big portfolio of homes, reverse mortgages as well, right? So I think getting training and education on all of those topics in the coming 6 months at least would be very vital for an agent to be truly successful in the coming 12 to 18 months.
All right. So learn about those SFR companies. Justin, what do you got for us?
Well, to piggyback on that, a lot, Jeff's right. A lot of brokers are not familiar with the REO to rent, right? Is what we call it. So utilizing those REO assets to reach out possibly to institutional investors, local investors, and formulate that these are assets for rent, right? And having that mindset. And there is an education to that. So this is not something that every broker is aware of. As they reference, also putting your mind around what's coming around the pipe, short sales, right? We all know, get trained, get up to date. If you're going to be successful, do not miss this opportunity. So short sale trading. Look, we're getting back to pre-COVID numbers. I don't think, we can all pontificate about the default and what's going to happen. The housing market as it sits right now is still very stable. But yes, there is a 30% year-over-year increase. We all know that. So this is coming to light, but it's not 2008, 2009 kind of numbers. And I don't see that happening. But I would just say those pockets, be very cognizant on what you're doing and how you're getting those values in those high rising states. And I'm not going to name all the states in localities that we're seeing the influx of default. But it's localized and it's state specific right now. I don't think it's a huge, broad, all 50 state issue. The data's coming out of several states. So I would just say get your tool belt on and get ready, and just be ready for short sales. And again, looking at REO for rents.
Yep. The market always rewards preparation, even before the production starts. So no, I really appreciate that. And with that, I think we have about 14 minutes left. Annie, I was going to hand it over to you to maybe give us some questions if there are any.
Oh, there are several. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay. Thank you all so much for sharing your insights and perspectives with us today. I think you covered a lot of valuable information. And as a reminder, everyone, if you haven't submitted a question, there's a Q&A box, and you can do so now. We'll go ahead and get started with addressing as many as we can. Our first question is actually from one of our advisory council members, Laura Dietz. And Laura is asking, what are the most common mistakes? So I think you guys spoke on this quite a bit, actually, but any other common mistakes that you see agents making that you think that should be avoided?
Anything from the Jays there?
Gosh, that's another tough question.
I think it's just deep dive into the values. I mean, we've said it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would add is lead with your work, not with your experience. Because experience only goes so far, right? Like, because especially when you're dealing with a newer client who doesn't know you, you're the 1,000 files you close with another client isn't going to matter to them, even if you tell them 100 times. It's, and we talked about this. It's so funny that Jeff was talking about this as well, is that, I often refer to BPOs as agent's resume, because you're literally giving me a sample of your work. And so lead with your work, not with, hey, I work with so-and-so and this in person, and this is what I've done, which is also important. Of course, experience is important, but actual results matter. So that's what I would add to that.
And I will add for the contracts, brokers with contracts, I would say the common mistake there is them not aligning the state contract with the client's addendum, and us having to send contracts back to have them updated before we can execute them.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure you guys offer a lot of training, a lot of things like that for brokers. So it's something that should be understood by now.
We had a contract checklist when I was at VRM on the VA account. Like, they have the tools to succeed. It's Jeff, we struggle with it as well. They just they forward it over without reviewing it, thus delaying the execution and ultimately the closing process. Right. And that's wasted days. Again, everyone, every day costs money. So
when the iron is hot, and it also creates a distrust with the buyers.
For sure. I think the other thing that we haven't talked about is how you build your team, because a lot of agents on this call that I've looked at are very seasoned, very, very good agents, but who you let in your circle is severely important now more than ever with volume increasing, because if they screw up, we're ultimately holding you responsible as the account holder or whoever the broker or agent is that's assigned to the property. And I have no issue with people that have large teams, right? It's just make sure that they are properly trained, right? Like, put forth the effort on the front end and you'll fly, right? Like, I can think of a few agents in Atlanta alone that have severely tight systems for everything dispositions related, and their people are thoroughly trained before they do anything on site with the property or interact with anybody. So take the time to build those things out.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. All right, our next question is from James Bopp. And James is asking, can this panel speak to the willingness to accept offers that include financing contingencies for renovation loans, and a 45 to 60-day closing time? Or do you want contingent free all cash offers and 30-day closings? Can anybody speak to that?
I can speak to, we often have financing contingencies with the commercial properties. And we do accept those.
Okay. So it doesn't make a difference either way to you?
Well,
It
the
depends
property
on,
will have to pass the pre-approval based on the financing conditions. But if it does, if the
Yeah.
property passes, if we believe the property passes the financing, then we'll accept it. Otherwise, we do have some that are just cash only. They may have a demolition order or issues, lien issues that buyers may have to assume,
Mhm.
et cetera. That in that case, we'll just accept cash only.
We're the same way. We don't do contingency subject to the sale of their current residence, though. That's
Right. Yeah, we don't
we
do
don't, yeah, we
third
don't do that
party
either.
sale contingencies.
Okay.
And then what about the second part of that, that 45 to 60-day closings? I mean, my experience has been that would make an inferior offer.
My experience too.
Comment?
That
Yeah, I
is
think-
an inferior offer, and we'll typically ask for more earnest money.
Yep. Yep.
You know, if that's a deal killer.
Protect your risk. Yep. All right. Annie, what's next?
I'm going to say, piggybacking off of that, we have Robert Thomas asking, we are fairly new to REO and working with VRM. There are a few assets that are nearly destroyed, i.e. major fire and flood damage. How should those assets be marketed when there's such significant damage?
And
market hold harmless, at least at a bare minimum. Make sure it's tightly secured. Fire damage, especially like fire, water damage, mold, all of those items we would require. Not that it would necessarily need to be boarded, but they must sign a hold harmless and access agreement before they enter.
We call it discoloration, Jeff. We don't use the M word.
I hear you. I've been out of REO too long. We call it A&G on my side. Yeah, I hear you.
I don't think that really protects us anymore.
Nothing does.
It's kind of known. Yeah.
All right.
All right. Next, we have Steve Pagano, who is our advisory council chairman, saying thank you for the excellent presentation today. And then with days on market being so critical in the current market, how can we present a better case to the client to place a stronger weight on our value?
Ensuring that you include all of the factors that drive the value of the property. And what I mean by that is it goes back to what I keep saying is knowing your product and in and out, you know, and with the county and putting that in your BPOs, putting that data in there. If they just make an adjustment and it's not supported with verbiage or some kind of explanation, then that weakens it up a little bit.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. We have time for one more question before we close out, and we have Kimberly Williams asking about valuation. Whose valuation is given more weight, the appraisers or the brokers? That she's seeing some out-of-state appraisers come in to her market that may not be as familiar. How do you guys weigh appraiser versus broker valuations?
Ooh,
I know.
good one.
That
From
is,
my perspective, the BPO holds the most weight because we work directly with the brokers before even completing the BPO. The appraisals are great to have because that gives you a basic baseline of what a lender will loan on the property. But at the end of the day, the broker price opinion is more valuable because they're going to do, again, their due diligence more so than an appraiser will. An appraiser is using comps that, you know, and not making all of the adjustments that a broker will.
Okay. Justin?
Yeah, it's an aggregate of both, but some clients will look to the appraisal as the gold standard. They'll look at, obviously the BPO as part of that whole package, and then certainly that responsibility is on us to aggregate that and give them the best path forward for disposition. But some clients, in truth, look at that appraisal as gold standard. So you have to be careful and know, as you referenced, Annie, those appraisers that are coming out of state, so that's part of it. Yes, that is part of it. But in our world, it's an aggregate of both that we're
Yeah. Mr. O'Pry.
I would agree. I found that the agent's value is, whether you're using a BPO or an appraisal for your second value, if you will, I don't want to say they're automated because obviously there's someone going out there, but the second BPO value that we get tend to have no repairs listed, when that's obviously not the case when I look at the listing agent's value. And fall on the sword, right? We were looking more in line with house canary midpoints when we first started taking on the project, until after about 6 months worth of data, where we were seeing is like, okay, we're listing at 110% or whatever of the listing agent's value. And by 90 days, we were under contract at anywhere from 99 to 101% of the LA's BPO value, right? So why don't we just stop the chase and do that on the front end, right? So we made that change, August or September of last year, and got a lot of positive feedback from the agents from that, like price more in line. But again, and I'm not saying REO is any different, but Blackstone is trying to liquidate these houses as quickly as possible for the highest return, right? So time is money, get it out the door type deal, right? So days in pre-marketing, and then days on marketing, and then your net to your initial list price, or in this case, BPO value, is critical metrics for us. And I think everyone would agree that those are three metrics that every agent should consider tracking, regardless of the client.
Yeah, I'm going to be snarky. I'm going to say that the right one is the accurate one.
Yeah.
Right? The one that's going to make my job easier. All right. Well, with that, Jeff O'Pry, Jeff Muller, Justin Askew, thank you so much. It was really a pleasure talking to you. I learned a lot, and I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we can do a round two, get some more questions. Sounds like we have maybe some questions that we can address after the webinar, but really appreciate your time. Looking forward to seeing you guys in person and talking a little bit more. And thank you to all of our audience. Really, you guys make all of this worth it, and I hope we imparted some good knowledge to you guys. With that, I'll pass it back to Annie.
Yes, thank you so much to Rita, ResNet, AREMCO, VRM, and Tricon Residential for participating today. We did have some questions left unanswered. All of you should have my email. It's annie@thereox.com. If you had a question unanswered, please send it over. And several were asking if we will be sending the recording out. We will. So you should be receiving that in an email as well. So thank you again to everyone who joined us today. We truly appreciate your participation. And before we wrap up, I would like to remind everyone we have our conference, the Housing Intelligence Exchange, November 8th through the 11th. And it will bring together industry leaders like those on this call. So, yeah.
I'll be there.
Awesome.
I'll be
Yes,
there.
we're hoping to see everyone on this call there. It's in Fort Worth at the Sheraton. The housingintelligence.com has some more information. And we just are really looking forward to working with everyone in the future and continuing to grow. So thank you all again to ResNet, AREMCO, VRM, and Tricon Residential. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.
Thank
Thanks all.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.